Hello everyone. Welcome back for this session. I'm here with Arman Murzabulatov. Hopefully, I spelled your name and surname correctly. Welcome, Arman. How are you?
Oh, thanks. I'm great. And you pronounced it perfectly.
Perfect. Glad to know. Arman is a seasoned developer engineer with over 15 years of expertise, and he has been recognized as top software development voice on LinkedIn. So he's a great expert. He has been working on the front end, and today you will be talking to us about a renaissance of Angular. So how Angular is getting back on the stage, I suppose. Is that correct?
Yes, that describes it perfectly. So yeah,
Oh,
today I'll be. Yeah, go ahead.
okay. So I will leave you the stage and I will be back for a few questions by the end of your presentation. So
Yeah,
let's go.
perfect. Hello everyone, and welcome for my session. Thank you so much for taking your time and joining my session. So this today I'll be talking about Renaissance of Angular, the modernity on web dev. So this is basically starting from the Angular 15, 16. It was modernized, and from the 17, and I think in a few weeks there'll be Angular 18. It's where it has some groundbreaking changes that modernizes the framework a lot and makes it more lean, better, quicker, and so on. But first of all, about myself, my name is Arman Murzabulatov. As as mentioned earlier, I have 15 years of experience. I've gone the entire journey from Pascal, Delphi, old ancient language, to modern TypeScript, and I'm a ex-CTO of a successful software service startup where I had a good exit. And yeah, I currently I have in the last 5 years I was mostly working on fintech. I was helping big financial institutions and bank modernizing, and yeah, incorporate mostly the use Angular. And back in time, I'm ACM semi-finalist, the context for World Programming. It's sometimes called World Programming Championship. So why Angular 17 is significant milestone? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Angular, um, since version 15, 16 started doing lots of changes, and lots of changes were in developer review. There was no clear picture. There were different random changes, random improvements. But since the Angular 17, all these things came together and changed the framework a lot. That's why. So the key basically in the key. So all those changes combined together bring some very nice features that I'll be talking about. So it is the building control flows, deferrable views, advanced SSR and hydration, and Vite and esbuild integration. And yeah, so basically it's a win-win situation for everyone. So for developers, it is the syntax is nicer, the improvements is better, the code is more maintainable. For business, there is some performance, and I'll be also talking about some business improvements. And for the ecosystem, it also makes more things possible to achieve, and diverse away some complexity, making it easier to develop. So what to expect today, I'll be going through these key features, and I'll be having like deep dive, talking about those features. I'll have some code demos, and in the end of the session, you have Q&A to ask questions. Yeah, and I'll be happy to answer those. So first of all, let's jump into the building controls. And the building controls is basically those ng asterisk ng something directives that we all use in our template. Yeah, and basically those have been there since like Angular 2, since Angular migrated from AngularJS to Angular 2, and it hasn't been changed, but it has, yeah. So basically, but those were, even though I have multiple years working in Angular, I still have to sometimes Google for like ng4. So it's because basically it's not JavaScript, it's also not HTML, but it's some kind of mix, kind of weird syntaxes like ng4, uh, then for, and then let something, and then there are multiple options. So those are not intuitive, and for some of the JS developers, for example, switching from other framework or from vanilla JavaScript, those are not usable. Of course, you get used to it, but it's not seamless. So the new built-in controls are simple and more intuitive to handle, and yeah, you'll see in a bit how it works. So the benefits of it are the syntax is readable, and then also the code is more readable, more maintainable. When you look at the template, you only have this some additional blocks, and it's easier to read the code. So let's start with the ngIf. So we all use ngIf. So basically, yeah, this is normal syntaxes example from some code. So basically, ngIf, we have this div where we have ngIf. If a user exists, then yeah, show some template. Hello, username. You're logged in as a user role, for example. Or else, sometimes we use, and then we have else syntaxes, and then we have anonymous user. That is another template that we declare in the bottom, template anonymous user. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, this is a little bit like mix. It's not JavaScript, it's not HTML, it's a little bit weird. And the worst thing is that when you have, for example, if scenario, and then you have another if, and then maybe you have few ifs, some of ifs are nested, then you have this, in the end, you have multiple ng templates, like for else cases, which is not quite readable. So instead, according to the new syntaxes, you have this at if. So if user, then yeah, hello username, you're logged in as user. Else, hello stranger. Look around and feel free to sign up. So as you can see, this is more JavaScript. The only thing we have to the different from JavaScript is that at symbol. So it's if else, but do we just add at symbol? Of course, this is can be inside div, so we don't have to write the div again and again. So we just this is basically like if else for the text of the and also the else also quite intuitive. So imagine you have this logic, and then you have multiple elses and multiple nested ifs. So this is quite readable. The next case is ng switch. So this is the old school ng switch. This is made up example. So we do ng switch in square brackets user role for this user. So if the user is admin, then we show admin dashboard. If it's a tenant, we show tenant dashboard, for example. And if it's just normal user, then we show the standard user. And according to the new built-in controls, that would be a switch user role, case admin, admin dashboard, case moderator, and case default. So this is, I think, getting closer to Reacting View, where you have this kind of JS syntaxes inside HTML. And lastly, we can move to ng4. So this is the standard ng4. For example, we have some observable of items that we load asynchronously. We do ng4. We have some list, and then we list the name of items. And then, and then sometimes we have a case where the items, there are no items. So which means it's empty. So we just says items.length. If it's 0, then we show no items to show. This is the standard syntaxes that we show. We all get used to it, but it's not the most optimal. And compare it with these 4. So we have the TypeScript or JavaScript for loop, 4 items of items async. And then the main difference here is this basically adds track by default. So most of the time from the code that I see, the most of the the slowest part is that we tend to write ng4 like in the first example, item of items, and we very rarely add track by. And this is basically, we all know about track by, but most of the time we don't add it. But when we use these syntaxes, track, we have to add track by. It's mandatory. So the 4 would not work. So basically, all the developers are forced to use track by. So here you can see items of items, track by. I just put item.id. It can be just item or item.name. Can be anything. Then we have this item name. And another thing is it has this empty, like else scenario, empty, and then you add the condition for empty. So in addition to that syntax being more JavaScript friendly, like you have for else kind of thing, empty. Another thing is that you can see that the Angular logic, like for, previously we had switch, and then previously we had if, those are now separate. And for example, as you can see, class equal to text here. Now, basically all the HTML related things like class, ID, or anything is separate from the ng logic, which I think awesome. But from the first example in line 2 and 5, you can see that we have class, we have ng4 logic, everything is there. It's kind of messed up. Now it's all clear. And basically, because of mostly, and using these built-in controls makes compiler more optimal. And basically, the community, there was a community framework benchmark. And because by utilizing built-in controls and forced things like track by, empty, and so on, the benchmark showed that it can be up to 90% faster runtime. And and then it's awesome, right? You can just improve by 90%, up to 90% by just switching build controls. But you may say like, okay, yeah, I want to do it, but I have a huge code base. And then why would I, it would take time to rewrite all this ng4 to for and ifs and all these built-in controls. But gladly, the Angular team has developed a automated command. So we can go to our project or folder, we can type ng, generate Angular control flows. And by using this command, and then you can basically set for entire project, or you can set for specific folder. And then this command will automatically rewrite the template. So we don't have to do anything. We just write this command, and then all the templates will be rewritten according to the new built-in controls. And here you have up to 90% improvements. And moving forward, I'll talk about deferrable views. So basically, what is and now with the deferrable views, we'll talk about the future of lazy loading. But what is deferrable views is? So it's deferring the loading of views until they actually need it. So deferrable views bring performance and developer experience to the next level, because they enable declarative and more powerful deferred loading with unprecedented ergonomics. And you will see it in a bit in action. So, for example, let's suppose I have a block, and then I have a section with user comments, and I want to load these user comments lazily. Currently, like I would have to use view container ref while also managing all the complexity of cleanups, managing loading errors, showing placeholder and exception. So basically, yeah, and I mean, this is doable, but it's a lot of hustle. Yeah, and also, you know, taking care of various cases, like loading states, errors, placeholder while it's being rendered. All these things may result in non-trivial code, and which is even hard to test and debug. So with deferrable views, we have this single line of declarative code. We say defer and the comment list. Comment list is the component that loads user comments. So this basically allows to lazily load component and all their transitive dependencies in a single line of code. So the most critical part is that this is all happened via transpile time transformation. So basically, Angular abstracts away the complexity by finding components, directives. So basically, by finding components, directives, pipes, everything that is used inside component list, the Angular under the hoods identifies all these, for example, all these things. For example, in comments list component, for example, we use certain other components. We use certain directives, certain pipes, or even services. And this Angular scans all these dependencies. And then when this is loaded, it automatically imports and manages the process of loading between states. So basically, we don't have to worry what is inside the comment. When the comment section is loaded, all the dependencies will be all loaded automatically and then cleaned up automatically. So this is basic to implement this now manually. It's a lot of work, but with this defer single line of code, all this is managed by Angular, and it's happening under the hood. But this is not all. This is the basic example. Then we can have the example. Well, we of course, the first thing that we might want to show the placeholder. So in this example, first the Angular renders the content of the placeholder block. So for example, comments, there's can be some image or some text. In this example, it's a comments placeholder image. So when it's loaded, first the image is loaded. When it becomes visible on viewport, the loading of the comment list will be started. So basically, from the previous example, the difference you can see there is on viewport. This is like a trigger. So we are saying when to load this comment list. So here, first of all, the placeholder will be loaded. Then when this section of the screen is on viewport, the comment list will start loading. And then once loading is complete, Angular will remove the placeholder and show the comment section. And I think from the Angular 18, which will be available in a few weeks, the server side will render the specific placeholder. So this placeholder will be added to the server side. But this is not it. So we can get away or like eliminate a ton of complexity under the hood and managed by Angular. So for example, this is a more complex example. So we have defer on viewport. So we say like when this part of the code of view is on viewport, then load command, lazy load command list. This is a user command list. And then we have like a loading control. Then inside the loading, we say loading. So basically the loading triple dot is shown when it's loading. Yeah, we can have a loader or anything there. Then there is an error when loading is not possible. We say like loading failed, and then we have placeholder. So as you can see, for one lazily loaded component, we can have 4 states. Before it was loaded, during loading, error, when error happens, and when it happens, and we just write in this way, and everything is and all this complexity between states, between switching and managing is under the hood by Angular. So this is basically the syntax. So in these examples, we were using on viewport, but there is also customization on that. So besides on viewport, which we can also pass a reference. So viewport will also specify reference when this anchor is visible. Angular will lazy load the component and will render it. We can have like on idle instead of on viewport. So on idle lazy load block when browser is not doing heavy lifting. We can have on immediate. This lazy load automatically without blocking the browser. On interaction, we can say like when a user interacts with something, with the reference, with the element that we pass the reference, then, or we can have on hover, for example, when user hovers on a specific element, the loading starts. So there is also more. You can have like completely custom trigger, which you can check in the documentation. These are like the ones that that's available, but we can basically define custom triggers. There is millions of possibilities of there. And also show deferrable views also provide the ability to prefetch the dependencies ahead of rendering them. Adding prefetching is as simple as adding prefetch statement to the defer block and supports the same trigger. So basically, we can say it's the same as the first example, load command list when it is on viewport, but here, yeah, sorry. So we have like here on idle trigger, and we say like, but prefetch on idle. So basically when browser is not doing any heavy lifting, when browser is not very busy, on idle status, it can prefetch those views and load them on command list. On viewport. Yeah. So basically, these are deferrable views. As we mostly use it for performance and resources optimization. And basically, the next big topic that I'll cover is SSR, SSG, and hydration. The Angular 17, before the 17 version, there were multiple things. There were SSR, SSG, there was hydration, there were lots of experimental possibilities that were in developer view. But since Angular 17, all this is shipped and it's available to everyone. So this gives improvements on load time. Besides, it's server-side rendering, SSR, and the static side generation or pre-rendering are closer to developer with just when we do engineer, we have this like a conversation with Angular command line where it asks, do you want this? Do you want this? Now we also have like a question saying like, do you want SSR and SSG? And we can say yes. And and hydration graduating from developer view. now hydration is available by default on all applications. Yeah, so I think for the 6 months, there were thousands of developers who were adopting hydration, and it was quite popular. That's why Angular team has decided to roll it out. Yeah, and basically, what is that? We basically render the content on the server and then seamlessly transition to client-side interactivity. This is basically the goal of it, and how we can do that. So previously there was Angular Universal repository. Now it's all in Angular CLI. And to add this hybrid rendering to existing project, for example, we just run ng-add Angular SSR. So Angular SSR is where SSR, SSG, and hydration is all Angular Universal. Everything is moved there. So it's Angular SSR. So with one comment, we can add this. And oops, sorry. And so this command will generate the server entry point, the SSR, SSG, build capabilities, and enable hydration by default. And with that, we have new lifecycle hooks. So we have after render. Remember, we had like lifecycle hooks, ng only, ng on change, and so on. And now we have two more lifecycle hooks, after render and after next render. Yeah, you can read the description here on the screen. And by utilizing hydration, after moving to the latest hydration, Virgin Media O2 observed 112% of increase in sales after they moved. So, and also in combination with Vite and esbuild integration, with SSR, SSG, we can observe that up to 87% speed improvements in ng-build and 80% faster edit refresh loop for ng-serve. Basically, that's everything I wanted to cover. For further reading, I would suggest look at signal-based reactivity and also standalone components. That's in short. Hope you learned something new and you will jump into Angular 17 and try these new things in action. Thank you so much.
Okay, here we are, and great presentation, super interesting. And I'm not an experienced Angular developer, but there you showed a few things that I completely didn't know, and it was mind blowing. Just a question, since I came from the React world. So I've seen that there are a number of application or solutions such as Next.js that provide a bit of modern technology such as server-side rendering and so on and so forth. So what do you think about having all of this technology packaged in the core of Angular? Is that a winning key point? Which kind of evolution could open up to users or to developers having a strong commitment behind them? What do you think?
Yeah. I think like since the beginning, the difference between React and Angular was that React was initially a UI library. So you use React, then you have to use then the remaining. You use Webpack. You can use any other packer, or you can React router or anything else. So basically, use React as a library, and then all other things, builder and everything else you build it yourself. So which is great. Gives lots of how to say flexibility. While Angular from the beginning was a framework, so you just have Angular and then you have pre-selected everything. You have SSR pre-selected, router pre-selected, the builder pre-selected. Now and then. So basically,
So
I think
it is opinionated. So the
yeah,
main point is that with Angular, being opinionated, it is easier to adopt, to use best practices. Okay.
Yeah, I think also like the use cases when you need lots of customization and you have very experienced team with React. It's nice to have React, but for example, for the like banking, where you have mostly enterprises, and where you don't need much of the customization, but you need more like a stability. So you have this all-in-one package that like everything works together well, and then you don't have to worry about it. So it's like a little bit less risk of having some issues. Yeah, it's two different worlds.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Very interesting. In your experience, how is difficult, if it is difficult to onboard new people on Angular? Which prerequisites, which knowledge do they need to have in order to be onboarded on the language?
Yeah, so basically, the main con of Angular compared to React and Vue was that the learning curve was long. But with like, as you noticed from the presentation, there was like a weird syntax and asterisk ng for something and blah, blah, blah. With this new, like latest updates from Angular 17, it's getting more lean and it's getting more JavaScript standard. So basically, in other words, I think the general trend is Angular is becoming more like React, and React is becoming more Angular. So they were like moving. There were two extremes. Now they're moving towards each other.
They are converging. They are.
Yeah, they are copying each other's advantage, and I think in few years we'll have all of them are like a similar syntax and just the engine behind it working differently. But I think with Angular 17, sorry,
we could call that Angular.
yeah. And then
the fusion from React and Angular should be.
Yeah. But from the new version 17, from 18, it's easier and easier to onboard.
Okay. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the presentation. It was super cool even for me that I'm not so skilled with Angular. So really great to discover advanced stuff and very clear presenting them. So thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.